So we'll get this one started. This is Safety and Public Works meeting, City of Brainerd, June 21st, 2021. It is 6:17 p.m. We have 9 items on the agenda tonight, and the first 4 kind of run together with the Transit Advisory Committee. So we will start with the first of those 4.
Mr. Chair, do you just want to make a note that Alderman Pritchett is absent?
Yes, and Alderman Dave Pritchett will not be here tonight, so it is just Tad Erickson and myself, Mike O'Day. The first item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing an agreement with the state of Minnesota to provide public transportation services in the year 2022. And Paul Sandy, I'll let you talk about that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the Transit Advisory Committee meeting, well, this wasn't actually an action item, but this is an item that generally comes before the City Council before we enter into our grant agreement with the state of Minnesota. We have to pass a resolution which basically agrees to provide, or the city providing a local share of the costs to operate our transit service of 15% operating costs and 20% capital costs, with the state of Minnesota share being 85% operational and 80% capital. So we do this every time we enter into a grant agreement with the state. The last time we did this, it was a 2-year grant. This year it's just a 1-year, so it's just for 2022. Basically adopting this resolution just authorizes the mayor and city administrator to enter into that agreement when the budget and the agreements are ready for signature.
Okay.
Really quick. So really, this just designates us as a transit authority, essentially, within.
Correct.
With MnDOT.
And that we will cover any costs that are not part of the 85% or 80%.
Okay. I have no comments, so if you have a motion.
Ready with the motion, then I'll move to recommend adopting the attached resolution as proposed to allow proper signatures on the grant agreement with the state of Minnesota.
I'll second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 2 is to consider Brainerd and Crow Wing County Public Transit Office lease for the year 2022. Paul, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Transportation Advisory Committee met on June 14th and reviewed our current office lease agreement with the city, who basically the owners of City Hall. We lease space to our transit department through our state contract. We usually increase it $15 a year. So this year we're proposing a $660 per month lease of the office space that houses our transit coordinator, our transit operations specialists, and the third-party contractors dispatching operation. It's a way for us to charge rent and get it reimbursed by the state of Minnesota through our grant agreement. So at the TAC meeting, it was unanimously carried to approve the transit office lease from January 1, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
All right.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the attached lease agreement as presented.
Second. Any more discussion? And hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. And item number 3 is to consider Productive Alternatives third-party contract agreement extension for July 1st through July 31st, 2021. And Paul, if you want to tell us about that one, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the Transit Advisory Committee meeting, we talked in detail about the transition between a potential new third-party contractor and our existing contractor, Productive Alternatives. Last time we went through this 3 years ago, it was a very quick process that we had to transition from our current contractor to a new one. This time around, we wanted to try to do things a little differently and give us more time to do a proper transition when that takes place. So we talked to our MnDOT project manager. They suggested that we do a 1-month extension with our existing contractor. Since that time, we have worked with our city attorney to draft an extension agreement to the original contract with the third-party contractor, Productive Alternatives. to just extend the contract 1 month to allow a transition period to happen. They're agreeable to do that at the same cost they're doing our existing services right now, so no cost increase for that. So basically, it's just allowing us another month to assist that transition along from one third party to the next. That was unanimously carried by the TAC meeting at their meeting on June 14th.
Okay. It's my understanding they do not have the manpower to continue indefinitely, and that is why we're looking to make a change. Correct?
Who are you
As far
referring
as
to?
giving them 1 extra month because we need to make a change because they do not have the manpower to run it correctly.
Well, yeah, they didn't propose this
Okay.
go-around, so our proposals are a 3-year cycle, or our contracts with third-party contractor. They elected not to propose this time, and I don't really know the reasoning, I guess, or can't comment to that.
Okay.
They just chose as a business not to.
I just wanted that on record that they did not.
Yep, they did not propose
They did
this
not
time.
propose. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I'll move to recommend approving the attached contract extension with Productive Alternatives for July 2021 at the same monthly unit prices as submitted in the original contract.
I will second that. Any more discussion? Go ahead. No.
Aye.
Okay, hearing none. We will move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against, same signs. Motion passes. All right, moving on to maybe the item of the evening here. Item number 4 is to consider Brainerd and Crow Wing County Public Transit third-party contractor proposals. And Paul, if you want to start us out on this one, I know there's multiple people that probably want to speak on this, but Paul, go ahead and get us started. Give us a little update.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, at the meeting we held on June 14th, the main item on the agenda was to review, score, and have a recommendation for an award to the council tonight from the TAC regarding our third-party contractor service operations. This is a 3-year contract that we do with a third-party contractor. In the attached memo, I kind of outlined the process that took place. On June 7th, we received the proposals. We did extend the deadline, so the first time we submitted or we let the RFP for a 30-day period, we did not receive any proposals. We elected to just extend that for another 30 days. After that 30 days, we did receive 2 on June 7th. After initial review, staff did an initial content review of each of the proposals. There was some documentation that was missing from one of the proposals by Brainerd Bus Lines. We did talk with our MnDOT project manager about that, and we allowed them a 24-hour grace period to respond with additional information. I submitted all of the proposal documents and email conversations between staff and the proposers that took place after basically the proposal opening. In staff's opinion, they didn't submit a couple of the things that were required in the RFP. However, we still moved forward at the TAC meeting in looking at both proposals. A little bit about the scoring process. What we call the scoring process is a best value procurement process. Basically, when this item is coming before the city council, the review that was done by the TAC is, by state and federal procurement guidelines. The TAC is recommending the proposer who provides the most advantageous offer by comparing all factors in addition to the cost, and taking into consideration that a recipient might acquire a technical superiority even if we have to pay more of a price or a premium for it. The premium is basically the difference between the highest cost proposal and the lowest cost proposal. And if the board felt that the value was there to take a higher cost proposal based on the scoring, then that is part of that process that they can take that into consideration. This is not a bid process. I want to make sure that people are very aware that this is not subject to bid law, which means that we would have to take the lowest responsible bidder. This is a service that a contractor is providing for us, and best value procurement is the methodology in which MnDOT chooses to score these service proposals by. Our TAC members were given these proposals on June 10th for completion before the scheduled TAC meeting. TAC members scored each proposal respective to the RFP requirements and the score sheet that you guys all saw in your emails. 3 members at the meeting had their scores available. We actually adjourned for a 45-minute period to allow the other 2 TAC members to score and review the proposals. 2 of the TAC members elected not to score Brainerd Bus Line's proposal due to the incomplete nature, and I'll let the chair speak to that in a little more detail. Based on our scoring and best value analysis done by the TAC and the discussion at the TAC meeting, the TAC elected on a 4-1 vote to accept the scoring performed by the committee and to recommend the award of the contract to Jefferson Partners, Blue Earth, Blue Sky. After that, preferred contractor was selected by the TAC. Procurement guidelines allow us to enter into what's called a negotiation period. We were able to sit down with Jefferson Partners on Wednesday of that week, on June 16th, and go over their cost proposal in a little more detail. We've learned a little more since that time regarding a couple of items that where their increased costs are found in the proposal, and we can go over that a little more once the chair of the committee goes over what the findings of the TAC were. I go into a little bit of detail about the cost increase of one proposal to the other that's shared here in the memo and in the spreadsheet that's attached. But I think at this point, I'll turn it over to the chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee to present out any additional findings from the TAC that he feels is necessary.
Mr. Chesak?
I need to go to the mic up here.
There is one, there's one in the center if someone wants to help Jeff.
Sure, I'll take it. I didn't know I was giving a presentation. I thought I was here to answer questions. Anyway, Jeff Chesak, 511 D Street. What are you doing?
Right here, if you need it. Okay.
Okay. How's that?
Good.
So we scored, we took time, some of the members took time to go through the proposals, and based on deficiencies, which were given the courtesy of 24 hours, I felt it's kind of like if you go out for job applications and you have specific instructions for applicants and they don't follow them, usually you say, sorry, but we're not going to accept your application or resume. And there was an item in the proposal from Brainerd Bus Lines that said, we reserve the right to relocate the transit office from the location at City Hall to somewhere in Baxter or Brainerd. And that's a non-starter for me. We need the transit office where it is. Staff has an excellent opportunity to hear and know what's going on firsthand, and it's just been invaluable. Years ago, it used to be at the third-party contractor's location, and it got moved back, I think, about 20 years ago when the county and city combined to form the city-county transit bus. The dollars and cents of this I see in the respect to the numbers provided are reflected a lot on the driving and dispatching. And I think in today's environment with job availability, if you pay your drivers more, they will be more likely to stay with you. And that's an important thing. You see what's going on at our different big box stores, how they're paying people to be cashiers nearly $20 an hour. And a lot of people are not willing to take cuts, if they are currently working at a certain wage and there's other opportunities, they won't stay with like driving a bus. So some of my rationale I use for that, I don't know if you have any questions of me of suppose what happened at the TAC meeting or the discussion, I can get into that, but I guess the recommendation is what it is. We had a lot of discussion on value, who's providing the best service, and we're looking forward to increasing bus ridership in the future is very important for all entities involved. The more people that ride, the less cost it's going to be coming out of any coffers, where ride fares make up what the city would otherwise contribute. So we've been very successful in that over the years. So Is there any questions you have of me?
Yeah, so it's tough. This is a tough one because you know Jeff, you've been around the block with this kind of thing, and typically, you look to the lower bid, and you don't usually go with the higher bid unless maybe it's a local guy. And this is a recommendation to go with the guy that's not local, and it's a higher bid. So you're giving us some arguments about why we would do that, and there must be some major arguments as to why that would happen. Do you have any other specific arguments against the proposal from Brainerd Bus Line that you want to make sure that you talk about, or do you feel like you've...
Well, I ride the bus. I'm not a frequent rider, but I am a regular rider. And drivers will say things to you that it makes you raise the red flag and say, well, they know what's going on. They know about the bid. They know about the third-party contract. They're all in limbo going, well, who are we going to work for? Who's going to be the chosen third-party contractor? And, we were kind of nervous back in May when the first round didn't get any proposals, and people say they won't work for this company or that company. They worked for them before. The issue with drivers is so important. We had that issue going back to the previous 3 years, which ended in 2018. The third-party contractor was taking drivers off of the dial-ride bus, which they were required to provide, and putting them on school buses. I guess there was more importance placed on the school buses getting to where they needed to go as opposed to having proper staffing for the city and county buses. And I don't think that has changed at all. As a matter of fact, there's information. If you seek it, you will find it. And the current bus operation is having trouble keeping on their schedules now with the school buses. So it's all about drivers, and that's a big concern. The third-party contractor, Blue Sky, proposed to interview all the current drivers and dispatchers, make sure they know what they're getting. The Brainerd Bus Line just said, blanket statement, we will plan on hiring everybody. And if they don't all get hired, then we're short right out of the gate. And that's not a good thing for this bus service, to be struggling to find people to drive and dispatch buses. So I understand the money is very important, and I guess the way I look at this is, you look at the big dollars and cents there, it's a lot. But when you talk about the state and federal funding and being 85%, that brings it down in the more manageable terms. And I'm certainly not one to spend money we shouldn't or don't have. And I think our goal, I think, on the transit committee and also with staff is to improve ridership. We make up the difference. We have a strong fund balance right now for our reserve. That makes a difference if we do fall short, and we can make up any potential fare losses if that even happens. Next year, we have full funding from the state of Minnesota. The CARES Act funding, and that's providing no cost to our transit service. So all the fares collected will be able to go into our reserve fund. Essentially, we can then use those if we need them, which I don't think we will, but who knows? It's a tough business. I mean, I kind of said to myself here the other day, I ride the bus, but there's so many other conveniences when you have friends and family, and they almost, well, let me take you down to your doctor's appointment, and I can take the bus, and sometimes they get rather demanding. No, let me do it, and okay, and it happens a lot. People are in need of a bus, but they find so many other alternatives that make it you don't know you're going to need a bus until the day you need it. I found that out a long time ago when I started using this. And so to suggest that we need to go with a low bid, that's the mindset all the time in government, all the time. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around a best value procurement process. But there's a purpose for that. There's a reason why they do it that way. It's the service, not that you're getting provided to you, not just the dollars and cents of it. And the service is about the most important thing when it comes to bus transit. So I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, you answered two more of my questions in your answer there,
Okay.
so thank you for that.
Okay.
Mr. Erickson, do you have any questions?
I've got some comments of my own, but no questions. but
Okay.
Thank Jeff.
Thank you.
If you want, unless you want to hold it till the end.
No, I'll make my comments. So, as you know, I'm the liaison to this committee, and I was not able to attend this meeting, unfortunately, but I did review both of the applications. I spoke with members of the committee, and I spoke with staff, and I support based on all of that, I support the recommendation coming out of the TAC. You know, in looking at the applications, there was a clear distinction between the thoroughness and the level of expertise that were in between the two applications. And yes, there's a cost difference. The fact that the one was turned in incomplete is concerning to me, especially after there was an opportunity to complete it. And then another thing, I have some experience, ranking transportation projects, MnDOT applications, and one thing that's important to me is evaluating the applications based on what's presented in the application. And so, taking outside information, is, when you're evaluating two proposals, you should look at just the proposals and score based on those proposals. And from what I can see, based on my evaluation of the proposals, I think the TAC got it right in this recommendation. So those are my comments.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Erickson. And Mr. Sandy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share some of the other findings. When we sat down with Jefferson after the preferred contractor was selected, there was a question about the insurance. At the TAC meeting, there was an actual question about the insurance that Jefferson Lines was providing for, it was a line item of $90,000 per year, which is a significant number when you're looking at this amount of difference. We talked with the state and we talked with our attorney, Joe Langle, and at first it seemed that it was likely that we've been doing things wrong in the past where the primary insurance should come from the bus operator. However, our city attorney corrected, we actually talked with the League of Minnesota Cities too, who is our insurance provider, in the fact that not only would Brainerd be the primary insurance right away, if we were to reach or have a catastrophic event and reach a catastrophic loss of life or something of that nature, the third-party contractor's insurance would be on the hook next. And there is a requirement that the contractor do provide insurance, commercial liability, automobile insurance as part of this proposal. In reviewing the financials, Jefferson did include that $90,000 line item. In reviewing the Brainerd Bus Lines proposal, they did not have that in there. So that is a huge disparity from what is in the proposal requirements that one proposer caught and the other did not. And it was verified that it is something that the operator should provide this service because of potential for a catastrophic loss in one of our buses and our statutory limits.
And how much of that would be, the $90,000 per year, how much of that would go to the cost of the actual city after the subsidies? Would it be the entire 90,000? Would it be?
No, it would be the 85%.
85%.
Yeah,
So
and then it'd be
That would
basically
count for about
to the
15
city of Brainerd, it would be 46% of the 15% would be the city of Brainerd's portion of that.
okay, so that accounts for somewhere around 7,000
Yep,
of that increase to
yep, so,
33,000 extra dollars out of Brainerd per year.
yep.
Okay.
So that's over our current third party. Our current third party contractor, our expenses are about $48,750. If we were to elect to move with Blue Earth Blue Sky, their expenses are $82,623 Brainerd share per year. We have other entities that kick in their share. Crow Wing County, the city of Baxter, and the city of Pine River have a percentage portion of the 15% that they contribute to this service based on their ridership.
Got it. Do we have anybody else here that wants to speak on this subject? Mary Cope? Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I guess as was it Paul Harvey always said, and here's the rest of the story. The difference between the two bids for 1 year is $391,527. Over a 3-year period, it was $1,167,907. I saw nothing in the bid, nor have I heard anything articulated that would indicate greater value to me from Jefferson Lines. We were told at the committee meeting that Blue Earth and perhaps Albert Lee had Jefferson Lines. I called them each this morning, and they do not. So if Jefferson Line is in the area there, or as we have Jefferson Line going through us now, sort of like you know what I mean, the buses that go from here to the cities and
Coaches,
such. They may be doing that. That I don't know. But they do not have city bus service. So I don't know if that was misleading or just how to describe that. I think additionally, Reichert has shown by their example of having had the bid many years, the good job they do. The ridership that was built up over the years is due to Reichert and no one else. Do they have some faults? Do they have some occasional driver issues? I'm sure they do. You tell me a business that doesn't occasionally have an issue that they have to address. In my experience, any time that Reichert had an issue and was brought before the bus committee, they addressed it as the committee asked them to do, and did everything in their power to make certain that the city was satisfied with them. Reichert is local. I see a lot in the newspaper these days and hear a lot about buy local, keep it local, Lakes proud. You know, you should really change that and forget about that little motto unless you mean it. Reichert is local. How many years have they been here? How many years have they paid taxes? How many years have they served not just the city, but the school? Are there some glitches in their service? You find me a service that doesn't have some glitches. I'd like to hear about it. I don't think there is one. But they continue to progress and to serve the community and to be good citizens. Additionally, I am concerned about the money. I've been a taxpayer for 70 years. I'm 88 years old. I started very young. I've done nothing pretty much but work all my life in one way or another. So when I hear about all this money that the state and feds are going to put in, it's really not all that comforting. They don't have a magic printing press, although they act as if they do. But sooner or later, that money has to be paid back. Somebody's going to pay it. At my age, it likely won't be me, but it will be you or your children or your grandchildren. I think it's irresponsible to not be concerned about money. When they tell you it's free money, it's not, and you know it. Additionally, Brainerd's share will at some time come back in. Our ridership is tanked. It's way down in the toilet, understandably because of COVID. It'll take a while to bring it back. You can only raise fares so much. I pursued the issue, I was the only one who did, at our committee meeting. Where will the money come from? Where will the city share when it does kick back in? Where is it coming from? The fares may not make it up. They have in the past when we had good ridership. But once your ridership goes down, it is a challenge, I think, to bring it back. Finally, Andy said we just have to take it out of reserves, which of course is the only answer out there. But once you start digging into your reserves, they're gone. And we have needed the reserves for other unexplainable or unexpected things that come up. And so I feel that that's not a good way to look at it, but rather to try to move along with with what you've got and make it work. If you can negotiate further with the one who's so, in my opinion, out of sight financially, why can't you negotiate with the other? I agree completely that at this point, the dispatch office should be at City Hall. And I believe in a negotiation with Reichert, they'll go along with that. From their perspective, it makes perfect sense to move it perhaps out to their facility because that's where their big dispatch center is. But if that's not acceptable to the city, once again, I think it's a negotiating point that could be worked out with them. I think in the interest of just respect and buy local and support local, and particularly the huge disparity in cost, that it would be only fair to at least attempt negotiation with both parties, not just with the highfalutin one that we really don't have any, we have zilch knowledge of any experience that they have in running a bus. Talk is cheap, as my mother always said, but it takes money to buy whiskey. That was an old-time saying. And so talk is cheap here. But what will really happen, and once you accept the bid, they have not, Jefferson Lines have not provided a specific area to house their buses. That we require that they house them on their own dime. They weren't required in the bid to tell us where. But I'd be very interested in knowing where, because I think that has some importance to us as well. So I appreciate the time that you've given me and the time the committee has. But I'm just going to reiterate once more, in fairness, negotiate with both. You have a local company, they've paid taxes, they've supported everything in this area for years and years and years. To kick them in the teeth strikes me as unnecessarily harsh. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate your concerns and comments. I do agree with Mary that it would be, in all fairness, to push this off and see if we could negotiate with both sides. I don't know if that's part of the legal process here. I don't know if we still have time to do that. I cannot make a motion in this committee, and we have a funny night here where there's just two of us in the committee tonight where we have one absent. So do we have more comments? Just state your name and address once you get to the microphone.
Sure.
Yep.
Kevin Percy, Minneapolis, Jefferson Lines.
Okay.
Blue Earth. It was hard to follow. So a couple of things I do want to call out that we will be hiring all local people. I understand that's a big issue. All the staff that we will be hiring will be local individuals. There'll be nobody coming up and working from the Twin Cities on a permanent basis other than to launch any potential business. We have also talked to the current landlord of the facility that the transit is housed, and they are open to allowing us to also have the vehicles that stay there. So it would be a vehicle facility just like it is today. So, I understand the local side of things. I really do. I'm not naive about that. As I said, we will hire local people, so we will keep everything in here. We are looking to do very good wages. We are seeing the wage increase dramatically in the cities, and so we feel it's going to happen as it moves out. So we are looking to pay very good wages to the local staff that is part of this process. I think that Jefferson Lines, who has been in business since 101 years, we know how to run buses. We're a transportation company. We run in 14 states. We are the top 5% safety records of all motor coach carriers in the North America. So we do have a good track record of running buses. And so I think that's our plan, is to bring that kind of expertise, that focus to this project. So,
Thank you.
any additional questions? No?
I guess Mrs. Cope brought up a point that you guys have not done city busing before. Is that true? Or
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
It was- but
This would be your first contract
Correct.
doing a
Yeah.
city line. Okay.
But our referrals were we did not put anything in there that stated that we did.
Right.
So we just want to make sure that that's clear.
Okay.
We do, Blue Earth Blue Sky does run transit down in Mankato to Rochester. While it's not transit, it does act similar to that process.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
all right.
Do we have anybody else that still wants to speak on this subject?
Question for Paul. I spoke with you earlier. I think you said that in one of the applications there was the safety record was provided, but the other one wasn't. Was that was one of the items that was initially in the application that was required but wasn't provided? I just following up on that because you mentioned the safety. And I think there was a couple other areas as I was looking through. There's a financial piece, and then the safety piece, and then some of the kind of creative ideas of, you know, managing the transit going forward. But I'll put forward a motion. I think, again, as I made the comments earlier, I think the TAC got it right in their decision.
Yes, Mr. Chazak.
Can I add something before the motion?
Yeah, go ahead. Take a left.
Yep.
Yep. A little further left. There you go. Yep, yep.
Right here?
You got it.
Okay.
You've done this before.
You know, as a TAC member, we get a lot of stuff. We used to meet every month, then we got to every 2 months, and you read the proposal, Tad, that there's a lot of reading and a lot of time. And 3 of the members came to the committee meeting prepared, and now their score is done. Everything was complete. And it's unfortunate that one member indicated that they didn't receive it for some email glitch, and another member just didn't do it. And we recessed because of that. Now, as chair, I could have said, no, we'll just take the scores we have. And I didn't do that because I think everybody has a chance, you know, to be heard, and it's an important decision. And all this hyperbole about where's the money coming from? I mean, you're talking about a service contract. These things cost money. And when you're paying people to stay on the job, to continue working, it costs money. You want to retain employees. Everybody knows you're not going to pay somebody $12 an hour when there's $18 an hour jobs that are probably less strenuous, less aggravating. I don't know if you guys ever ridden a bus, but it can get hectic any day of the year, winter, weather, anything, hot, cold. And so you want to retain good people. I see as a gentleman indicated, they're willing to pay. That requires money. And I know the local company, buy local, it's important. I don't deny that. But that's not the basis for making this decision. This is more than just a local company, and the passion I heard, that's great. That's enthusiastic, and I have to wonder, how closely tied is the individual to the company? Are they doing this because of longtime friendship? I think so. And that's not the reason we go into this business. You got to set that aside and be objective. And I don't hear that from certain people, and that's troubling. So objectivity is the main thing when it comes to a best value procurement process. And when we get caught up in the sentiment, you lose that. So just try to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have anyone here from Reichert? Nope. Okay. Okay.
Chair, I'll make the motion then to recommend approval of the award of the third-party operations contract to Brainerd, Crow Wing County Public Transit to Blue Earth, Blue Sky, Jefferson Lines, per the above TAC recommendation.
I could choose not to second this, but I'm going to second it because we have to have something to motion forward into the main council meeting. Not to say, and move on to discussion, not to say that I 100% agree with this. I do 100% agree with paying for a better service. If that's what we're getting here, I'm happy with it. It's tough because shop local, buy local. I totally understand your argument there, Mary. And that is the argument that's going to be sent into the next meeting. So this isn't over, but we will go ahead to the vote unless you have more discussion. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So we will go to item number 5. And this is to consider an event parking lot closure application for the Concert for Kids. Paul, do you have this one?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair. This one is pretty quick and simple. One second, please. I'm on the wrong item. Lakes Area Music Festival has been working with the library, to host it's actually the Brainerd Public Library Children's Center, to host an event in their parking lot, which consists of a string orchestra for outdoor, for kids, hosted by Alexander Pena. Basically, it's a parking lot closure with some amplified sound. There was no comments submitted by department heads for this one. It's a pretty simple parking lot closure. We'll drop off traffic control. We've already discussed that portion, and so we're just recommending approval of the application as presented, and the traffic control piece or other conditions that we usually put on these, we've already taken care of. So it's really just moving forward with the event.
All right, sounds great.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, and I will second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll see you guys all there. We got item number 6. All right, I think we have some people here that, if they're still awake, you can speak about this one. This is a review of the event and street closure application for the Here for Good Market. Destination Downtown has put on this event, and we did a 2-week trial period, which sounds like it went really well. I don't know, Paul, do you want to speak on this at all, or should we just?
Yeah, I mean, I think from staff perspective, Chief Bestel was going to come to this meeting, but he's not here. But the first one went really well. He didn't have an opportunity, I think, to reach out to his staff to see how the second week went, but I haven't heard anything, so I'm assuming, from a traffic control, traffic flow, that kind of perspective, safety, public safety kind of thing, I haven't heard anything that would lead me to put any additional conditions on this. I think it's been going well, and maybe we can let them just speak to the event and how it's been going for them. So,
Yeah, come on up, guys.
Hi, guys.
Got to do the name and address thing.
Riley Weber, 612 Front Street. I wanted to say the first 2 weeks did go great. We got a lot of traffic. I just do want to be transparent that we did only use half of the street closure. So we closed in between 7th Street and the alley, Front Street and the alley on South 7th. This week we do have a larger number of vendors, so we will be wanting to close the full length of 7th Street between Front and Laurel. We did not have any hiccups the first 2 weeks, and we're hoping that that continues with the full closure. We did notify the businesses over the weekend and today, and did not receive really any pushback, so we're just really looking forward to the rest of the summer.
I saw a lot of feet on the ground. Marie, go ahead if you want to speak.
Sure, yeah, Marie Kirsch, 323 North 10th Street, and I also own Nutty Pine Bakery in downtown Brainerd. I just, I've been helping with organizing this, but just wanted to speak as a business owner in downtown. I think it's been a really positive thing for downtown. We've seen increased traffic at our storefront location, and we also have we're set up as a vendor as well, and just gotten a ton of positive feedback, both from public coming out and joining the market, and also from other vendors. They're just really excited to have a market in downtown. So I think it's overall been a really positive experience, and we've been really good about just reaching out to the business owners. We know there were some initial concerns from some business owners about street closure, but we felt like we've kept a good line of communication open with them to let them know what we're doing. And so overall, yeah, I'd say it's been a really positive feedback so far.
Good, good. I wasn't able to make it to either one of these. I did drive by, I just couldn't, I didn't have time to stop. So I did get to see that there was feet on the ground, there's people, you know, buying stuff, and there was still parking. So that was good to see. We want to fill those parking spots either way, but I'll also say I was in Appleton, Wisconsin for a wedding this weekend. Saturday morning, they closed down 5 blocks of Main Street from 8 a.m. to 12:30, and there was thousands of people. So it was almost like every store had a vendor, and everybody just kind of participated, and it was great. So hopefully you guys continue to grow. I think it's gone well. So, Tad, anything?
No questions. Congratulations on the successful event, and thank you. And
So is your application for through Labor Day now? Is that what
Through August 31st, and then we have, we'll be doing a sesquicentennial market on September 22nd, and I believe all those dates are included on the original application.
Okay.
yeah, actually, that was my one question, but like next steps, do they have to reapply? But that's perfect.
Paul, do they have to reapply? Or are we just approving their original application tonight?
I think if your guys are comfortable with the original application, we don't need any motion tonight.
We don't, okay.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
think,
a
you
trial
know, it's-
period in the first place,
Yeah, but
right?
it's,
So we're
you
good.
don't have any additional thing to say, so you approved it, and I think we're good.
Keep it rolling.
It just, to be safe, you could just approve it again. I don't know what the last minutes said, that it would be contingent upon a reapproval, but I don't think it was. I think it was approved for the 2-week trial period, so.
Go ahead and cover our bases if you want.
Yeah, so, again, thank you, and I guess I'll make the motion then to reapprove or just affirm the original application.
And I will second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Congrats, guys. Keep it going. All right, item number 7 is to consider a state park road grant application proposal from Widseth. And this was something I sent to Paul a little while back. Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Something we've never applied for in the past, but like Mr. O'Day said, he sent this to me, and trying to think of areas that this would apply to. The state park road application is for road reconstructions, resurfacing, that kind of thing, for state park roads, accesses to public waterways, that kind of thing. What really jumped out at me right away was Lum Park Road. That's over by the Casey's gas station. It's on Google Earth. It's kind of labeled J Street, 14th Avenue. It's Lum Park Road is what we call it. So that was something that really caught my eye, and actually I did put this into the park board agenda tomorrow night because it's something that really ties into I think what they're trying to do from the park side and upgrading, updating parks, making beautification, that kind of thing, and what better way to do that than the entrance into one of our better parks. So this grant application is due November 1st. Like I said, it's eligible. Eligible costs are basically engineering, right-of-way, construction, basically anything that goes into a design to reconstruct or resurface a street that has access to public water, which is what this would be considered. The DNR has their access to Rice Lake there, and it is a very heavily used access. We have a parking area adjacent to our existing park buildings and down by the lake. So we would, so I talked to Widseth about this in some detail. They would handle the actual application submittal and the preliminary investigations involved with this. Their proposal cost was $2,300, which, in my opinion, is a very small fee to pay if we're to get a large grant to reconstruct this roadway. So they do the preliminary investigations, they do the cost estimating, submit the grant application on behalf of the city for this project with some estimated costs. So really what we're looking for tonight is if you guys are in agreement to move forward with this proposal from Widseth to apply for the state park road account for Lum Park Road. Total proposal cost of $2,300. We would recommend we take this from Construction Fund 401. If we were doing this in-house, we would be setting up an improvement and paying our wages out of that improvement the same way. So Construction Fund 401 is the spot to take this from.
I just have a question regarding the road. How far out from the landing are we talking about applying all the way to the highway, or
It would
just?
go all the way to the highway, yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean, I
okay.
think the main purpose of the grant is to improve the access to the waterway. So the access to me starts at the highway, goes down past the gas station, past our park buildings, goes into the park, and the boat landing is right where he's got his cursor there. So we would be applying for the whole thing.
Yeah, and Lum Park is one of the parks looking for a new master plan, and that's in the very near future, so that would be great. So,
Well, yeah, good find. I mean, I think I was driving back there the other day, actually, and obviously this time of year is filling up and just gets a lot more use with all those bigger RVs too. I'm sure that's been tearing up the roadway, so I think this would be a good opportunity.
Yep.
motion?
Make the motion, move to recommend authorizing the attached proposal and entering into a professional service agreement with Widseth for the SPRA application submitted for Lum Park Road in the amount of $2,300.
And I will second that. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 8 is to consider quotes for improvements 21-03 of 2021 large patch project. And go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a yearly maintenance project that we've done. We've increased the budget on this one, and this was all due to the kind of the value we get out of these large patch. So if we get a road in really poor condition, we typically go out and pothole patch it. What this project's purpose is, a lot of times we can't get to those streets soon enough with a project to keep them in decent enough repair so that the traveling public stays safe. This project is aimed at those projects that aren't in our 5-year plan that we need to kind of extend the life on, but have like very localized areas of big potholes. So a couple of years ago, this improvement project was around $10,000 a year is what we spent, and we really couldn't get much of anything done. So it was 2 years ago, when we redid our 5-year capital improvement plan, this was a project that we identified as we should be increasing the budget on. At that same time, we get a certain allocation from state aid for maintenance, and we can choose two different ways to get allocated money. One is through our state aid account. We get about $850,000 a year put into that account based on the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund. And we can choose to take 20% of that as a lump sum payment to the city for maintenance projects such as this. Prior to 2 years ago, we were doing $1,500 per improved mile, which equated to about $26,000. So the city, at that time, we elected to increase our maintenance allocation from state aid up to that $200,000 threshold and really focus our efforts on seal coating, crack sealing, large patches to help extend the life of these streets that aren't in our 5-year plan, but we're trying to extend them out so that when we do get them into the 5-year plan, they're still in a good enough state to travel on. You'll see a lot of the streets we're doing this year down on like Portland, Chicago. Those streets were beyond a state of repair that pothole patching could keep them in a drivable condition. So this project really aims towards those kinds of streets where we're taking out large pieces of pavement and replacing it with hot mixed bituminous patches. So we solicited quotes from Anderson Brothers and Knife River. Anderson Brothers did not get back to us, which is surprising because they've typically done this work on our behalf. I think they're very busy. However, Knife River did get back to us, and they are giving us a very, very favorable price to do this. In fact, so much so that we're doing about twice the amount that we did last year for the same amount of money. And so we're very happy with the quote we got back. And so what we're recommending here tonight is to authorize that quote from Knife River in the amount of $48,937.50. And take that from the budget we allocate of $50,000 per year from Construction Fund 401.
Great.
nice opportunity for preventative maintenance.
How many different areas of patching are there? I don't need to know if it's complicated.
No, it's
answer.
right in the list there, 30.
Okay. So
I'd say
30,
just
30 different
1, 2,
large
3,
patches.
4,
You'd think
5,
that
6,
each one of
7,
those
8.
would be $2,000, so. Okay.
Motion to recommend authorization of the quote with Knife River in the total amount $48,937.50 for improvement 21-03 -2021 large patch project.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And our final item, number 9, is a scope of services modification for the 2021 gully erosion study with HR Green. This is another one with Paul Sandy.
All right, so last item, in the 2021 budget, we budgeted for 2 major stormwater projects. The first one was related to our MS4 permit. You guys received a presentation on that the other night. That was for our overhaul of our MS4 permit. Along with the next 12 months, we'll be working to update our SWIP plan, our Stormwater Pollution and Prevention Plan. Our original budgeted amount for that project was about $105,000. To date, being that we have worked very closely with 3 other cities on this project, so the city of Baxter, the city of Arden Hills, the city of Brainerd, we've been using the same consultant and they not having to duplicate their work. So basically is what we're doing is, since we're working with them, we've been able to reduce our costs substantially because he's basically taking his time to do one modification to all 3 of our SWIP plans and everything and splitting that 3 ways because he's providing it for 3 cities. So our cost is going down substantially on that project. They are anticipating another $30,000 to finish it off. So we've spent about $15,000 of the $105,000 we had budgeted. We're anticipating about another $30,000 to finish that project off, which leaves us in a surplus of about $60,000 of budgeted dollars. So that kind of leads me into this next one. So we had also in the budget to do a rehabilitation study to look at some of these large gullies we have at pipe outlets. So South Brainerd, as many of you are aware, has some very, very sandy soils, like in Mike's backyard.
Yep.
And when we have outfalls that go into Little Buffalo Creek or the Mississippi River, they tend to wash out very, very easily. This is the case down in Buffalo Hills, on Buffalo Hills Lane, where we have a culvert crossing underneath Buffalo Hills Lane near Carroll Lane, and it makes its way down to the Little Buffalo Creek eventually. We did a walkthrough with the Soil and Water Conservation District, HR Green, who's the consultant on that project, to look at that gully first, and it has become quite significant in size, to the tone of about 30 to 40 feet deep and about 40 feet across. This gully is right in people's backyards. So people that live on Ridge Drive and Carroll Lane, their houses are backing this large washout. It's important to note that this gully creation in part is due to city street infrastructure and stormwater running off of our streets, but there's a larger story to this in that pipe that drains underneath Buffalo Hills Lane also drains a large wetland complex south near our industrial park and near Woodland Hills Lane, back by Crestview Lane, Southview Court area. So there are multiple entities that we're going to have to be involved with on this because we're, a contributor to this issue, but we're not the only one. And so it's a much larger project than just the city taking this on and hoping to get funded for it, because what really needs to happen is we need to do some surveying down in the gully, engineer a set of drawings to basically grab all of that stormwater and pipe it down to the river. And that's kind of the plan that was formulated when we walked it, because there's not enough stabilization in the world to stabilize that soil in South Brainerd. So basically, the plan would be to have divert the $60,000 of funding that we have left over from the SWIP MS4 update and the $50,000 we have for the gully study, and diverting that into basically a project that we would be able to deliver and apply for Clean Water Act funds, something of that nature, because this is going to be a significant cost project. We don't know what that is going to be yet, but it could be multiple millions of dollars to fix this. We're gonna have to go for grant funding. So with that, we need to have a deliverable project, and that's what this would get us to, by reallocating those funds to get a design done, get plans done, and get it out in front of the legislature, clean water fund, so that we can get this project partially or wholly funded. So that's what we're requesting tonight, is we basically take the money we have left over from our MS4 SWIP update, what's anticipated to be left over, plus the gully erosion study funds of $50,000, and diverting all of that to change that scope of work into that gully plan and specification to start applying for funding to get that one fixed.
Yeah, so obviously this one's pretty big, needs to be taken care of as quickly as we can.
Yeah,
Do you
Sean's
have
got some photographs up, and you can see it in aerial photography, the extent of this thing. You can't walk down the bottom of it because there's so many trees that have fallen into it. We've gotten a lot of concerned residents down there that are worried about losing their decks.
When did we first learn about this?
It's
Curiosity.
been on the radar for 3 to 4 years since my predecessor was around. When we did Buffalo Hills Lane design back in 2017, and got that designed and eventually constructed in 2019, that's when it really started getting on our radar, because we've had some larger rain events during the summer. And once this starts eroding, it goes really fast. As you know, with sand, once it breaks that initial stabilization of tree roots and
Right.
grass, it goes at a very quick pace. And so it's a
Yeah.
project that, we really need to act on with our partners. We're going to pull
Right.
in Soil and Water, Board of Soil and Water Resources, and work to get this thing completely funded, to not have to levy for a project like this.
Why don't we all just grab rocks and start piling them up?
It's going to take a lot of riprap.
All right. Do you have a list of other areas that are in the future that need to be looked at already, or do we?
Yeah, we through our study that we did with our H&H model, they can do a quick analysis on where stream velocities become great enough to start eroding soil. There's a few smaller ones that are around that South Brainerd area. The second one that we walked is actually over by Evergreen Cemetery. They've actually requested a little bit. In the past, you guys heard the chair of the Evergreen Cemetery Board talk about some of the financial issues they're having, and we're from our street department side, and from our technical expertise as engineers, we actually walked a gully with them. It's not due to a pipe outfall; it's due to overland flow from the cemetery. That's creating a washout down kind of near the rear of their property, near the river. We've walked that and gotten our consultant involved in that one to take a look at it and give them a recommendation on what they can do without garnering floodplain permits and all of that jazz. They can do some fixes there that don't require getting environmental permits. So we've actually helped them with that one already.
Okay.
Are you aware of any FEMA, like mitigation funds that this might be eligible for? I know you mentioned the high rain events, and I know they fund some erosion. The county's got their hazard mitigation plan through city's participation in that, which I think we participated in. That could open it up to some FEMA funds.
Yeah, we're really going to lean on our consultant on this one for funding. He had a list of 7 or 8 potential opportunities that we could go after to get this thing fully funded once we have the costs known. The project impacts at this point aren't even known. The access is hard. We're thinking it's going to be a winter project because there's always water running through this thing, except for right now where it was dry. But it'll have to be near frozen conditions to get in there and remove all the deadfalls and the trees and everything that's fallen in there, and then get a pipe put down and bury it, it's gonna be a disruptive project, but I think it's gonna be very welcome to the people that have their houses backing this area because it's been a worrisome for them for a few years.
I agree, yeah.
Mitigation funding might be one to maybe suggest to them,
Okay.
at least to look into. I'll make a motion then to recommend authorization to enter into a professional services agreement with HR Green for the Buffalo Hills Gully Stabilization Project. It's authorizing the amendment to the MS4 program update with HR Green as seen in the attached request.
I will second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. And just need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.